How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Steins Linear Bounded Phenogram. And yes, this drink here that I just opened is 100% Dr. Pepper. I finally got it right. Alright, so now that I have the correct drink, and we're back in it here with Steins we should be reapproaching, I guess, the time when we actually embarked on our journey, with Lukako going back into the past in order to spend her time with Mayuri before she passed away. And that time really went by quick when you think about it. We really just did not get too much of a day there. It just zoomed on by, which kind of sucks. And it really sucks seeing Mayuri die like that. It really, really hurt. I don't know if we're in the final stretch. I feel like we are, because we are just looping back around and reapproaching when we left. So unless there's more that's going to occur, which I kind of doubt, I think this might be the last episode of the route. I don't know. We'll kind of just play it by ear. Everything broke down into chaos after that, just like it had before. I guess I'm used to it at this point. Of course, I'm sad. But the saddest thing of all is that eventually I'm going to grow used to it all. Before this all went down, I had only heard that had happened, or what had happened to Mayuri-chan, and I didn't see it for myself. So what I saw at that precise moment was shocking, horrifying even. When I close my eyes, I can see her surprised face with such clarity, her hands reaching for space. And yet even then, the time between the wake and the funeral felt like seconds. I guess humans are creatures that eventually get used to things as they repeatedly experience them. Even the fun things. The fun of the experience fades after the second and third time. This goes for sad and painful things too. If anything, maybe it's easier to get used to those negative experiences. I don't think it's something we have control over. This is just how humans manage to maintain their mental balance. I get it, but even if it is something we have no control over, I don't think it's a good thing. Maybe this is what Okabe-san was so scared of all along. By experiencing Mayuri-chan's death over and over again, his mental health reaches a breaking point. Oh, absolutely. And eventually he doesn't feel anything seeing his friend die. His heart just dies. I think Okabe-san wasn't able to deal with that. I mean, when Mayuri-chan passed away, Okabe-san barely even moved his shoulders. He just kept staring at what was happening in front of him. He was objectively observing the event. I'm sure he was probably sad deep down. He was in all kinds of pain. Even now, I bet Okabe-san is at the lab unmoving. But that's not because of the shock of her death. It's because of the guilt he has from abandoning Mayuri-chan. Or at least that's how I see it. His heart must be worn out. My dad once told me something.
生きるということはね、ルカ。常に死を内在しているものなんだよ。
死を内在している？どういうこと？
死は誰にでも平等に訪れるものだ。そして生きとし生ける者はこの世に誕生した時点で死という運命からは逃れられない。
運命？
そう。生きるということは死へ向かっていくということそのものであり、時間というものも死へと向かってゆく道筋だと言える。生物は皆死ぬからこそ生きているんだよ。
Yes, sir. I think that was when my cat passed away. When I was little, there was a cat that made a home under the eaves of the shrine. Eaves or leaves? My mom warned me not to feed it because it'd become dependent, but even then I still snuck him milk and fish. One day the cat died. Just when I had started to wonder why I hadn't seen him in a while, I saw him lifeless under the eaves, Okay, I guess it is Eve's. His body covered in scars, maybe he fought a dog or another cat. And that's when my dad talked to me, tears streaming down my cheeks. I didn't understand what he meant at the time, but now I do. Everyone eventually has a run-in with death, and that's why us humans value what we have in the now. But what would we do if we found out the time of our deaths was predetermined? Haha, well, Okabe-san once said something to me. That no matter how many times he tried to save Mayuri-chan, it was hopeless. One time she got shot, another time she was run over by a car, another time struck by a train. Oh yeah, that did happen, huh? Another time killed by a sudden sickness. He told me that Mayuri-chan's death was always waiting for her just around the corner. But if fate is predetermined, then... I look up after hearing the sound of footsteps.
ルカ、
My dad is looking down at me with his knowing eyes.
お父さん、
なんだい？
お父さん、僕、わからないんです。
I hit my dad with all the doubts in my mind, hoping he has the answers.
昔、言いましたよね。人は必ず死ぬって。
ああ、言ったね。生ある限り、人は必ず死へと向かっていく。その道を時間と言うんだ。
じゃあ、誰がいつ死ぬのかも、運命で決まってるんですか？
運命か。そうだね。ルカはどう思う？
僕には、わかりません。でも、もしも決まっているのだとしたら。
If dying before the age of 20 is something decided from the moment you're born,
僕たちは一体、何のために生きているんでしょう？
ルカ。
ねえ、僕たちは、何のために生きてるんですか？
this is such a horrid scene. Like, it's so terrifying and sad. On that day, I hopelessly watched Mayuri-chan die, and I couldn't do anything. I willingly disconnected myself from causality so I could make her wish come true. Oh, excuse me, I leapt through time, something nobody should be able to do.
僕はただ、まゆりちゃんの願いを叶えたかったんです。
Dad probably has no clue what I'm talking about. I'm completely incoherent right now, just saying whatever comes to mind. But even then, I can't hold myself back.
まゆりちゃんの願いを叶えたくて。そして僕は、その願いを叶えたと思ったんです。だってあの時。
When I cosplayed for her,
あの時、まゆりちゃんはとっても喜んでたから。
her smile was so warm and grateful, but
でも、それは本当の意味で、まゆりちゃんが願うものだったんでしょうか。確かに、まゆりちゃん、笑ってました。だけど、まゆりちゃんの本当の願いは、もっと他にあったんじゃないかって、僕は。
I mean, we'll never be able to find that out. She probably doesn't even know what her... Like, nobody could really know what their true wish is, to be honest. It's something that's probably deep down inside all of us, and we can't really express it. And it's probably always changing, too. What do you truly want out of life? Why did Mayuri-chan want me to cosplay in the first place? Maybe just maybe she wanted me to smile and laugh. Maybe she wanted to help me gain some self-confidence. She knew how shy I could be. She wanted me to be confident and smile from the bottom of my heart. Maybe that's why she kept trying to push me to cosplay. No, it wasn't just me.
まゆりちゃんは、 いつだってみんなが笑ってくれることを願ってました。
She was always...
僕も橋田さんも牧瀬さんもフェイリスさんも下のお店の店長さんも、そして岡部さんも。
She wanted all of us to laugh and smile.
マユシーはね、ルカちゃんやオカリンやみんなが笑顔でいてくれるとすごく幸せなんだ。
みんなの笑顔、それこそがまゆりちゃんの本当の願いだったはずなんです。そしてそのみんなの中にはもちろんまゆりちゃん自身だって含まれていたはずなんです。
That...
それがきっとまゆりちゃんの本当の願いだったのに。
But at this rate...
ねえ、お父さん、教えてください。
ん？
人は死んだらどうなるんですか？死んでしまった後、人は一体どうなるんですか？
死んだ後か。
Dad, who had quietly listened to my rant this entire time, responds in a calm voice.
それならルカも知っているだろう。人は死んだら神様になるんだよ。人は死んだら祖霊となり、やがて神となって、私たち子孫を見守ってくれるんだ。私たち神道に携わる人間にとって、それが死後の世界だ。
I have heard this time and time again ever since I was a kid.
だが、もちろんそうじゃない考え方もある。
そうじゃない考え方。
そう。例えば、カトリックでは最後の審判によって人は天国と地獄に振り分けられる。また仏教では人は死ぬと生まれ変わる。あるいは生前の業に従って極楽あるいは地獄へ行くとも考えられている。死んだ後に人がどうなるのかは世界中にいろんな考え方があるんだ。だけどね、一つ言えるのは、それはすべて私たち生きている人間が考えた世界だということだ。
Yes, that is the big thing right there. We created these ideas, but we based them off of something. They didn't just come out of nothing. And while I may be an atheist, and I don't believe in any of these things, and I never will, as far as I can tell, unless I have some sort of wacky, wild, life-changing moment, I do respect those who believe what they believe. I'm not getting into that. But it is crazy whenever you think about it. There's a lot of history and a lot of background to a lot of these major religions as to what can happen after death and why it's set up that in that certain way. What kind of backs a lot of it. It's very interesting when you get deep into it.
いいかい、ルカ。死んだ人に対して生きている人間が行うことは、すべて生きている人間のためにしていることなんだよ。死んだ後の魂が迷わないように、成仏できるように、天国へ行けるように、そう思って人は死者を弔う。でもね、結局死んだ先に世界なんてないんだよ。どんなに豪華な葬祭も葬儀も、すべては生きている人間の心の安らぎのために行われるものだ。死んだ人は何も思わない。もう何も考えることはできない。死んでしまった時点で、その人の世界は終わりなんだ。
終わり。
そう。だけど、そう思ってしまうのは怖いから。だから、 人は死んだ後にも世界があるとそう考えるんだ。なんて、神主である父さんがこんなこと言ったら怒られちゃうな。まあ、これはあくまでも父さんの意見だ。だがね、ルカ。考えることは大切なことだよ。
はい。
お友達が亡くなって今は辛いだろう。でもそうやって自分で考えてみるのも大事だと父さんは思うよ。
はい。
Yeah, I've never had well, I guess that'd be a lie. I have had a close family member pass away, but it wasn't anything in like a too early of a moment sort of deal. I don't have a situation to really relate here to Lukako. But I have not been in that deep of pain from loss, because it's just something that I guess loss is something that you can be okay with. As I know that sounds bad, if it's an understandable circumstance and you've prepared for it. If it's something sudden like this, it's a little bit harder to really get through. It's a little bit more painful. You ask more questions, like Lukako is here. You wonder why. Why did this have to happen? Why is fate... Oh, shit, excuse me. Why is fate cruel? And this and that. I do not have a situation to really relate to that, but I think it is an understandable situation for Lukako to be in. Dad nods, and then after gently placing his hand on my head, he leaves the shrine. I notice that he grabs some luggage before leaving. He must have went out of his way to spend time with me, even though he's busy. Their world comes to an end. But then, what happens to Mayuri-chan's wish? If it's true that someone's world ends when they die, we'd never be able to grant her wish. If that's true, what was the point of becoming disconnected from causality? What was the point in jumping into the past? I don't want to hurt anybody else, and that's what Okabe-san had said. He told me that he didn't want to sacrifice anyone else's memories and feelings. Okabe-san's a kind person, so he doesn't want to see anybody else suffer because of his ego. I know exactly how he feels. But then what about Mayuri-chan's memories, her feelings? She treasured our smiles more than anything else in the world. Where are those feelings supposed to go? Well, I think that's supposed to be something that goes to her friends and family. Well, obviously not like literally passed on, but knowing that she was able to experience feelings, these feelings and memories, feelings from these events, memories that she was able to retain even for such a short time, knowing that they existed should be passed on to friends and family, and that should be a happy thing. I know I don't have the right to say something like this, or you can see that as a selfish thing, I don't know. I too changed the world for my own ego, yeah, there you go. Because I wanted this body, I let Mayuri-chan die, but even then, I can't stop thinking. I need to figure out what I can do now. I grab Samadare and stand up. Saishin Zanma style. It cuts across all doubts and destroys evil. The evil within. That's a crazy game. Just as Okabe-san taught me, I sink into a front-facing stance. I lift Samadare above my head and swing it straight down in front of me.
Hit!
In order to swing away my doubts. Yeah, exercise is usually good for this sort of stuff. Strangely enough, with each swing of Samadare, I feel like all the doubt in my heart begins to clear little by little. It's like when I was still a student. Whenever all the stress and all that was building up. Just go on a nice run or something. Totally forget about all that shit. Yes, at the end of the day, the path that Okabe-san chose was egotistical. He couldn't stand his own mind being chipped away at. He wanted to be at peace. And I am just as egotistical for accepting his feelings.
10
The sins Okabe-san committed, the sins I committed, all we're trying to do is make them a little lighter, shouldering them together, or by shouldering them together. This is probably a bad thing. No, a wrong thing. Plus,
18
if we continue down this path, Okabe-san will never smile again. No matter how much time passes, he'll never be able to truly smile. And it's not just him. I'm the same. Makase-san too. Not a single one of us will ever be able to smile from the bottoms of our hearts ever again. Not with Mayuri-chan dead.
20
There's a massive hole inside of Okabe-san's heart. One that I can't fill by myself. I can never take Mayuri-chan's place. I said that I'd make her wish come true. I even leapt into the past to make it happen. But I haven't actually done that yet. I mean, nobody's smiling.
24
Nobody wanted this world. I never wanted to see this world. Nobody did. Hashida-san once said something. The world only comes into existence once someone observes it. There's no such thing as an unobserved world. It just remains unknown. I don't really get what that means, but if nobody wants to see the world that we're in right now, so close to 30, come on. Then that probably means this isn't the real world. Yeah, the real one is Steins Gate. This world was never meant to be. I look up after hearing footsteps. Yeah, we're circling back around here.
Okabe-san.
For a time, we both sit in the corner of the shrine, silent. When I peek over at Okabe-san's face, he's looking a little better than he was when I last saw him here.
Rukako.
Hi.
We have mail. Oh, from our mother. Do you want something light? Actually, that reminds me of something someone once told me a while back. Apparently, eating vegetables gives you energy. That's why I ate a whole bunch when you were still in my belly. Let me know if there's anything you want to eat. I'll do my best to make it. From Greek to Russian, you name it, I'll make it. Ah, well, it's all coming together here. Who told you that eating vegetables gives you energy? Alright. There's nothing in particular I want to eat. Go with whatever you want, Mom. Sorry I haven't been eating much lately. I'll definitely feel better soon. And what's Greek food like? I've never had any, so maybe go with something normal. No, I don't want to send that one. Let's go with this. Let's pry a little. Like, we know the fucking answer, but I just want to pry.
Arigato. Rukako.
僕、お礼を言われるようなことなんて何も。
そんなことはない。お前は、まゆりのためにコスプレをして、コミマに行ってくれ。あの日、まゆりは随分と喜んでいた。一日中、笑顔でいられた。お前のおかげだ。だから、ありがとう。
I thought as much. I figured the reason that Okabe-san looks better in this world line is because I granted Mayuri-chan's wish. Or at least he thinks I did. especially after seeing her smile up until the very end. I mean, that's the whole reason why I used the time leap machine so many times. I should be happy about that too. I should have been happy, but...
どうしたルカ子。
いえ、何でもないんです。
そうか。
Why is it that this pain inside my chest won't stop? No, I already know the answer. It's because I'm running away. I want to grant Mayuri-chan's wish, so, no matter how big or small. Heck, it was our wish too. This was our way of asking for forgiveness, in order to lighten the burden of guilt. To try and rid ourselves of these feelings of regret from abandoning Mayuri-chan. But here we are. And I can't help but think that this isn't how things are supposed to be. Regardless of whether or not we granted her wish, or if she was smiling in the end, the fact remains that Mayuri-chan is dead. The end result is still the same. I refuse to believe that she wanted to die. I know she didn't. So nothing really changed. All we did was take some of the weight off of our own shoulders. Oh, excuse me. This is for Mayuri-chan. This is for her happiness. We kept telling ourselves that, but at the end of the day, we were just doing this to try and find forgiveness. I think back on Dad's words. Why are we flashing back to something that just happened?
いいかい?
Come on.
死んだ人に対して生きている人間が行うことは、すべて生きている人間のためにしていることなんだよ。死んだ人は何も思わない。もう何も考えることはできない。死んでしまった時点で、その人の世界は終わりなんだ。
Yeah. In the Shintoist teachings we follow, it's said that people become spirits when they pass away. They become one of the gods, and then they go on to watch over their descendants. This is what the concept of death looks like in Shinto teachings. But this is just a convenient explanation that those of us still alive came up with. What happens after death, you say? It's just too sad to believe that there's nothing. It's too scary. But does anyone really want to become a god? Gods aren't people. Either way, a person's world, at least as a human, ends the moment they die. Which means, Mayuri-chan's world is over.
そんな顔をするな。マユリは、俺たちの心の中で生きている。俺たちが忘れない限りは。
岡部さん。
Ah, the old Kingdom Hearts method. That's wrong. That's just what those of us left behind want to believe. She's dead. She's not alive anywhere. The Mayuri-chan in our hearts is just a memory. And one day, we may very well forget her. Her voice, her appearance, all of those memories will eventually fade away and disappear. Just like our sadness will. And eventually our guilt will disappear too. Can you really call that being alive? The reality is that we needed to carry the sin of abandoning Mayuri-chan together. But instead we tried to lighten the load by granting her wish. We were never doing it for her. Our actions were empty from the beginning.
どうしたルカ子。
いえ。
But there's no way I can tell Okabe-san this. I can barely put it into words. Time crawls by, the two of us silent. This time that we're experiencing together only exists because we're both alive. Deep in thought. Thought in deep. Okay, actually, I'm gonna end the episode here. I will definitely assume that we will finish next time, and I don't know, maybe we'll have time to spare to start up the next one. I'm actually surprised we're still going here. We're really getting into like the meat of things. Like we're really talking about death here, which, you know what, I'll take it. Like we're getting into a serious topic that deserves to be talked about, especially since death has played such a part so many times with Mayuri in the original Steins Gate. I think it's worth its place here. So I think we will definitely finish up next time. I thought this would have been it, but I guess there's just a little bit more to talk about, and I gotta say, I kind of appreciate it. So thank you all for watching this one. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.